It's not Oklahoma. It's not A&M. The biggest game of the Longhorn season is this Saturday against Georgia. I'll tell you why on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, BK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. We will recap Texas basketball's easy win over Lafayette. Also, take a look around week 11 of the college football season and talk about how the action from Saturday impacts the Texas Longhorns going forward. But first, the Longhorns' biggest game of the 2025 season is just 5 days away. This isn't coach speak or cliche where I'm saying it's the biggest game because it's the next game. No, Georgia is the biggest game of the year for Texas. I've been saying that since the offseason, and I'm saying it on Monday of game week, and I'll be saying it throughout the course of this week as well. And it's the biggest game for the Longhorns for a number of different reasons. Of course, you have the obvious, right? Texas, a one-loss team in the SEC, playing for its conference championship life. Texas is a two-loss team overall, playing for its college football playoff life. So from a 2025 micro standpoint, everybody knows how big of a game this is. Top 10 matchup in the AP poll. I would expect when the new college football playoff rankings come out tomorrow, it's a top 10 matchup. We know what's at stake from a 2025 perspective. But this game is about way more than just that. This game is about proving that you belong. Not only proving that you belong, but proving that you didn't just join the SEC for the paycheck. You didn't just join the SEC to say that you were a part of the best conference in college sports. You can send a message this weekend that you joined the SEC because you believe that you can win the SEC. You believe that you can be the top dog in this conference. You're not just here to be here. You're here to take over. Walk into your trap, take over your trap, as the kids say. They probably sound a lot cooler than I did when they say that, but you know what I mean. And to be the best, you have to beat the best. That's an expression that I'm sure everybody knows. Georgia has been the class of the SEC. 2 national championships in the last 4 years. They are, of course, the most recent SEC team to win it all. They've got 2 conference championships in the last 4 years as well. 3 trips to the playoff in the last 4 seasons. The only year Georgia didn't make it, they finished number 5 back when the playoff only had 4 teams. How about this? Since the start of the 2021 season, Georgia is 61-6. Almost looks like a misprint. 61-6 in the last 4 3/4 seasons of college football. They've only lost 3 conference games in that span too. They are 36-3 in SEC play since 2021. 2 of those 3 losses have come to Alabama, Ole Miss, the other one. None of the other 13 teams in the Southeastern Conference have been able to beat Georgia since the beginning of the 2021 season. You got to go all the way back to pandemic times, the last time somebody not named Alabama or Ole Miss won a conference game against the Dogs. It's unbelievable what they've been doing under Kirby Smart, and they are the class of the SEC. Now, hey, Alabama fans, if you find this episode, thank you very much. Welcome. You guys are in the mix with them too. But number 1, Texas doesn't play Alabama this year. And number 2, in 2023, Texas went into Bryant-Denny Stadium when Nick Saban was still the head coach at Alabama, by the way. This wasn't Kalen DeBoer's New Age Alabama where we're not quite sure if they're the same. Texas went in to Alabama 2 years ago and handed Nick Saban his worst home loss of his entire Alabama tenure. That was a big prove-it opportunity for Texas back then. That was obviously when the Longhorns were still in the Big 12. We knew they were making the move to the SEC. That was the chance to kind of prove that, all right, you're ready to make this jump. Texas did that, winning that game by double digits. Well, Now another prove-it opportunity for Texas. You have to prove that you are the team that everybody needs to start fearing in the biggest, baddest, and best conference in the sport. How do you do that? You beat Georgia at their house. They've only lost 2 home games since 2017. They've only lost 1 home game since the COVID pandemic. Now, the good news for Texas, that happened earlier this year when Alabama went into Athens and won. But only 1 home loss since the pandemic, only 2 since 2017. Speaking of stats that look like misprints, it is insane how good the Dogs have been in Sanford Stadium. And because of how good they are at home, because of how good they are in general, because of how much they've dominated this conference, especially against every team not named Alabama, that is why this game is bigger than any other game Texas will play this year in the regular season. Obviously, you get to the playoff, that's a different story. We all know that. There are other big games. Beating Oklahoma is fun. The Golden Hat means a lot. I'm not sitting here arguing that game doesn't matter, because of course it does. But Oklahoma hasn't done anything in the SEC. Not fully their fault. They've only been there for 1.5 years, just like Texas. Now, they did go 6-7 last year. That was totally their fault. But they haven't been in this conference long enough for people to view that as a huge win in the conference. Texas A&M could be an 11-0 Aggie team coming to Austin on Black Friday. But the Aggies have been in the SEC since 2012. They haven't even played for a conference championship, let alone won one. I mean, SEC teams have been beating the Aggies since they joined. Not much this year, I get that. But every other year, teams have been picking apart the Aggies. No one views them as a perennial power in this conference. No one considers them a top dog. I'm not breaking any news to anybody here. And of course, when you lead the all-time series 77-37-5, you're expected to win that game against the Aggies. Again, it would be fun. It would feel like an even bigger win. It would just mean more if the Aggies are undefeated and still ranked in the top 3 when we get to the day after Turkey Day. But you don't send the message that you could send if you win this weekend. And you're not expected to win this weekend. Georgia opened up as a 6.5-point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel. Look ahead line last week was 5.5. Georgia goes out and puts a whooping on Mississippi State in Starkville. Now the line up to 6.5. And again, Georgia, 1 home game that they've lost since COVID. They are the reigning, defending, undisputed SEC champions of the world. And unfortunately, everybody saw what happened in the 2 matchups between these 2 teams last year. You lose to the Dogs again, it's bad enough that everyone's going to be sticking a fork in your 2025 hopes and dreams. Now, we've discussed it, and we'll continue to discuss it. Texas can still sneak into the playoff at 9-3, but obviously the waters get a little muddier if you slip up in one of these final 3 regular season games. But not only are people going to be counting you out of SEC championship game contention and maybe college football playoff contention too, you've got to deal with all of the narratives that you just aren't good enough to be at the top of the league. Yeah, that's great. You're second tier. That's fine, but you're not Georgia. And every Texas fan wants to be Georgia. Everybody wants to be Georgia. It's not just Texas fans. Every fan wants their team to resemble what the Georgia Bulldogs have done over the last few years with Kirby Smart at the helm. Being near the top is great, but you want to be at the top. We're not just trying to have a seat at the table. We are trying to be at the head of the table. And I know beating Georgia this weekend doesn't guarantee you an SEC championship. Don't even guarantee that you're going to play for an SEC title that year. So obviously a lot of work left to be done, but you can go a long way into proving that you belong, and obviously go a long way into increasing your chances of getting to Atlanta if you get a win in Athens this weekend. Trying to be number 1. Texas has done a great job of winning the SEC and other sports. 8 conference championships in their first year in the league. Nobody else had more than 4. That's great. But in the one that matters the most, you have 0. And again, I know Saturday doesn't win you a conference championship. It goes a long way to giving you a chance to do it. And again, you send a message. If your last 2 games against Alabama and Georgia are road wins against them, that's huge right there for your program. From a micro standpoint, from a macro standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, from an everything standpoint. By the way, Texas doesn't play Georgia again until 2027, and they don't play at Sanford again until 2029, So last chance for a while. You could meet in the conference title game. You could meet in a playoff game. I get that, but you don't have that guaranteed shot at redemption if you lose this one until 2027. It's the biggest game of the year. Other games matter. Rivalry games are rivalry games, but so much will be at stake Saturday night at 6:30 when Texas plays at Georgia. What say you? Do you agree with me, or do you still think OU or A&M or something else on the schedule is bigger than this? For me, I don't think there's a close second. This game is the biggest for the Longhorns this year. All right. No pressure, Texas. While we're talking about Georgia, we got a few thoughts on their dominant win over Mississippi State that I referenced a couple of minutes ago, and also a few other takeaways from Saturday and how the results impact Texas down the stretch. We'll get to that next on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, a word for our friends at Wayfair. The holiday season is right around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or just fun serveware for holiday hosting, Wayfair has some great Black Friday deals to help make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. You're thinking, oh, Black Friday is not for a couple of weeks. No, their deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. At Wayfair, you could totally upgrade your space. And if you've ever hosted family for the holidays, you know how much difference just a few touches can make. Wayfair makes everything that easy, and they deliver it right to your place in time for the Thanksgiving holiday. So don't miss out on their early Black Friday deals. Head over to wayfair.com to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. WAYFAIR.com. The sale ends December 7th. And also a shout out to Doer. Oh man, I'm wearing my Doer jeans right now as we're recording this episode. The most comfortable pair of jeans that I own. And they look great. That's the beauty of Doer. You get that classic jeans wear style, but you get the comfort and performance of athletic wear. It is the best of both worlds. Doer jeans are designed to stay comfortable and look great all day long, no matter what you are doing. They've got 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They're made with Cool Max technology that regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture, keeps you cool and comfortable as temperatures change in these fall months. It's great, man. I didn't realize jeans could be this comfortable. I've worn these so many times. I've only had them for like a week, and I've already worn them now 3 times. They are the most comfortable pants, and the best part, you don't have to sacrifice on style. Trust me, once you try these, they will be your go-to. So get a pair for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Try them for yourself, or they make an amazing holiday gift for somebody else. Head to shopdoer.com/lockedonlonghorns. That's shopdoer.com/lockedonlonghorns, and you are going to get 15% off your first order. Again, shopdoer.com/lockedonlonghorns. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. We're going to spend a good portion of this segment talking about what Georgia did in Starkville, and then we'll get to a few other games and discuss how they impact Texas. But, man, Georgia played its most impressive game of the season against Mississippi State on Saturday, taking down the other Bulldogs 41-21. The start of this game was interesting. Hail State got the ball first, marched down the field, scored a touchdown, went up 7-0 very early. A bit later in the first quarter, Georgia lost a fumble at the goal line as they were about to take a lead. And you're wondering, maybe Georgia's overlooking the cowbells a little bit. Is this a trap game that some folks have been talking about with Texas coming to town next weekend? And hey, Georgia barely survived Florida, and they barely survived Auburn. Could this be another nail-biter for the Dogs? Spoiler alert, it wasn't. I don't know if I need to call spoiler alert. I think all of y'all know at this point what happened. Georgia just took off after that. They racked up a season-high 567 yards of total offense, and they just had their way with the other Dogs after that. 41-21, the final score. It wasn't even that close. Georgia was up 38-7 5 minutes into the second half. They kind of called off the Dogs, no pun intended, after that. Georgia averaged 7.7 yards per play on offense. They ran for 303 yards on a very nice 6.9 yards a carry. Gunnar Stockton was great, 18 of 29, 264, and 3 touchdowns. And the Georgia defense put it together, forced a turnover on downs. They were so dominant that Mississippi State switched quarterbacks. Blake Shapen kind of got hurt, but could have come back into the game. He just wasn't doing anything, so they stuck with Camario Taylor, who, of course, Texas saw on a few plays in the Longhorns win in Starkville a few weeks ago. But yeah, it didn't matter for Mississippi State. And maybe the scariest part from a Texas standpoint, Georgia had 3 sacks. They had a total of 8 in their first 8 games of the year. That ranked last amongst Power 4 teams in college football. Georgia, they still have athletes, blue chippers all over their roster. Their pass rush hasn't been great. Maybe they figured something out against Mississippi State. And I know 11 total sacks through 9 games is far from amazing, but I'm a little worried they found something. And I'm also a little worried about this Texas offensive line. I think every Longhorn fan is with what we've seen from them thus far. Maybe the only not so good thing that happened to Georgia was their tight end, Lawson Lucky, one of their many tight ends, got hurt on a play that was called targeting. It'll be interesting to monitor his status throughout this week. We'll get an injury report on Wednesday. Kirby Smart said after the game that Lucky wanted to come back in, so maybe it's not that serious, and Georgia was just being overly cautionary because they were killing Mississippi State. But outside of that, if you were hoping Georgia was going to look mortal a mere 7 days before taking on Texas, you were let down. And there's been a lot of talk about the Dogs being a bit down this year, maybe not having as much talent, not being as good in the trenches, et cetera, et cetera. If that was your first time watching Georgia this year, hey, it's a Texas bye, no Longhorn game, no tailgate. I'm going to check out Georgia since we're playing them. You probably didn't see any of the mortalness, if that's a word. Yeah, Georgia looks very, very good. And a huge key for Texas, obviously, in this game, and we'll preview it throughout the course of the week, but getting the running game going would be great. Texas dead last in the SEC in yards per game on the ground, just in terms of conference games only. Georgia ran for 300 yards as a team on Saturday. Their rush defense has been very good all season long. That's a weakness on strength matchup right there. I will say this, glimmer of hope. I didn't want to preview this game as much as I am right now, but the good news maybe for Texas, obviously the Longhorns coming off a bye, so everybody a bit healthier than Georgia, you would think. And Trey Wisner's 3 best performances of the year have been against the 3 best defenses the Longhorns have faced this year, with the Ohio State game, with Oklahoma, and with Vanderbilt. So maybe he'll have a little something up his sleeve. It feels like Trey Wisner has elevated his game when Texas has played against the most elevated competition. He's going to have to be good. Texas is going to have to get something going on the ground against Georgia because that offense is firing on all cylinders right now. They've got a lot going for them. All right, so that was Georgia, what they did on Saturday. Some of the other games, last Friday we did a Locked On Longhorns Hate Watch guide in honor of the Texas bye week, and I kindly recommended that y'all should be rooting against a number of teams around the country. Most of the teams that Texas didn't want to win won. Now, there was some good news. Thanks to the ACC, Virginia and Louisville both lost. Both of those teams ranked below Texas in the initial CFP rankings, but because we have to have an ACC team in the field for some reason, they were occupying the last non-G5 playoff spot ahead of Texas. Well, Virginia lost at home to Wake Forest, and Louisville lost at home to Cal. So again, an ACC team is going to make it, but we were hoping that conference would be so bad that only one team was going to make it, and I think that's happened. Georgia Tech, Miami, Virginia, and Louisville, they've all lost in the last 2 weeks. The all-cupcake conference, as I like to call it, has ruined its chances of getting 2 teams in the field. So that's good. ACC is going to be a one-bid league. That opens up one more spot for an SEC team. I don't really care about any other SEC team except for Texas. But it does increase the likelihood that the SEC gets 5 teams in. Unfortunately, our friends at the Naval Academy could not take down Notre Dame, and the Cougars of BYU could not survive the Raider Rash, and Iowa choked late against Oregon, and LSU stinks, and the Citadel didn't beat Ole Miss because they're the Citadel. Not a ton of chaos this weekend. Only one ranked team, one team ranked ahead of Texas, easy for me to say, goodness, lost, and that was BYU, who, again, lost to Texas Tech. We were rooting for them to win. But I will say this, because BYU did lose, I think they're going to drop out of the top 10, and I think Texas will be in the bracket when the new rankings come out tomorrow night. Texas will probably jump up to 10. They will get the last non-conference champion spot in the field, and there you go. I know we got a long way to go. That probably doesn't do a whole lot for anybody except make the Georgia game look a little bigger on paper. Top 10 matchup is a lot cooler than a top 11 matchup. But, yeah, Texas likely to be in the bracket tomorrow. Obviously, if they beat Georgia, they will stay in the bracket. If they lose, they'll probably fall back out, and with a chance to get back in the final 2 weeks. So there you go. Look around the country. Texas, again, didn't get a ton of help, but knowing that the ACC sucks is a good thing. The hope is the Big 12 only ends up getting one team in as well. If that's the case, obviously that increases the likelihood of a 9-3 Texas team sneaking in the field. We'd prefer 10-2, so we don't have to worry about any of this stuff. Who's with me on that? I think we all can agree on that. All right, let's shift gears here. Texas basketball picked up its first win of the Sean Miller era over the weekend. A few takeaways from Saturday's blowout win over Lafayette, and some things that I think you could feel good about for the Longhorn team, even against tougher competition. That's next on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, shout out to our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and it is in full swing, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game, or if you just want to ride the hot hand mid-game, you can do that with FanDuel because they have live bets on everything from who's going to make the next basket, who's going to get the next rebound, to crazy fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, it's the best part, and my favorite, you can even combine your live bets into same game parlays for a shot at bigger payouts. That's right. We all like bigger payouts. FanDuel keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team is making that late push or your player is getting hot. Right now, FanDuel is offering an unbelievable deal. New customers get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Take advantage. Head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back. Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. A little Texas basketball chatter, if you'll allow it. First off, shout out to the Texas women's basketball team. The fourth-ranked Longhorns had little problem with number 24 Richmond at Moody Center on Friday night, 85-56. The final, Texas trailed after the first quarter. The game was actually tied with 4.5 minutes left in the first half. It was all Longhorns after that. Texas closed out the first half on an 11-0 run. They outscored the Spiders. I don't know if they're the Lady Spiders or just the Spiders. Whatever they are, Texas outscored them 50-32 in the second half to run away and hide with the win. 3 Longhorns in double figures. The All-American Madison Booker went for 22 and 12 to lead Texas. Vic Schaefer squad 2-0 on the year. Now 1-0 against ranked teams. Nice performance in Austin for the Texas women. The Texas men also won over the weekend. Congratulations to Sean Miller, the first of hopefully many wins as the Texas men's basketball coach. Texas took care of Lafayette 97-60 on Saturday afternoon. The Longhorns closed as a 25.5-point favorite, if you care about these kinds of things, and they won by 37. You know what they say, good teams win, great teams cover. Good sign for Texas. They look great on Saturday. Look, I won't spend much breath trying to argue that Lafayette is some great team, but a lot of the things that we did not see enough of in the season opening loss against Duke, I thought we did see against the Leopards of Lafayette. Yes, they are the Leopards. Namely, ball movement and getting out in transition. Texas had 6 assists and 16 turnovers against Duke. Not sustainable. They had 21 assists and just 9 turnovers against Lafayette. Much better numbers there. The 21 assists coming on 33 made field goals. They were spreading the ball around a ton. Offensively, 6 guys got into double figures for Texas. And again, to the transition game, the Horns were able to get out and run. They did not do that against Duke. Tough to run when the other team is shooting 22 free throws in the second half. Thanks for that one, refs. But Texas forced 15 turnovers on Saturday. They turned them into 24 points. They had 20 fast break points, which is 4 times the amount that they had in that category in that Duke game last Tuesday. That was great to see. So those were like my 2 biggest gripes. Again, the difference between Duke and Lafayette, we all understand it is massive. Obviously need to see Texas do it against good teams, but some of the things, again, that I think every Longhorn fan was like, God, we have to see that more. They did, which is good. And we also saw more of the same in a couple of good areas. Like, I was a little surprised that Texas was able to out-rebound Duke, considering how bad the Longhorns were in that department last year and considering that Duke is Duke. I'm not surprised that the Longhorns had their way on the glass against Lafayette, but I'm still glad it happened. Texas plus 18 on the boards, 16 offensive rebounds for Texas. This is where maybe you get the once is a coincidence, twice is a trend, three times is a pattern, whatever the hell the expression is. I say it all the time. I can't even remember what it is. Texas had 18 offensive boards against Duke, 16 against Lafayette. The Longhorns were 192nd in offensive rebounding percentage last year, according to Ken Palm. They are top 20 in that metric. 2 games. I get it. 2 games, but really nice to see 27 second chance points for Texas. This is not an elite shooting team. So you get offensive rebounds, you give your guys second opportunities. That's going to make life a lot easier for this offense. So I like that. More good from Matas Vokatitis, obviously helping out with the offensive rebounds. 15 points against Duke. He had 14 and 11. Not as many turnovers, too. He was like running over Duke players, lowering his shoulder, traveling. He looked a little uncoordinated against those elite athletes that the Blue Devils have. A much more efficient performance for him. 14 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. His handprints were all over this game. The transfer from Florida Atlantic, the freshman of the year last year in the AC, American Athletic Conference. He's been really good. And Texas has that size. Obviously, that goes back to the rebounding conversation that we just had. Vokatitis and Lacina Traore, those guys being healthy, those guys being able to stay on the floor, and just having those guys, plural, 2 of them, versus just having Caden Shedrick last year as the one big that you felt good about. That should help Texas on the glass and should help Texas in a lot of different areas against bigger teams. You don't need those guys to really be bigger than and stronger than Lafayette, but obviously against tougher non-conference opponents and SEC play, that's where size is going to matter. It always matters. Shout out to the walk-on Anthony McDermott. Came in late in the game, well in hand at that point. 2 for 2 from downtown. I always love when the walk-ons get time, and I love it even more when they can hit a couple of shots. The bench was going nuts. The crowd was going nuts. Obviously, a moment that he will never forget. Anthony McDermott, awesome stuff. Congrats to you. Well done, sir. Texas basketball back at it Wednesday night against Fairleigh Dickinson. If that name sounds familiar. Yes, Fairleigh Dickinson, the school that pulled off a 16-1 upset over Purdue in the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago. FDU. We don't need anything like that happening in Austin, please. They're 0-2 on the year. Should be a pretty easy win for Texas. That was fun a couple of years ago, though, for FDU. I don't care about Purdue at all. So, again, no upsets this Wednesday. That'll do it for today's show. Appreciate y'all. If you made it this far, number 1, God bless you. Number 2, please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, all of those things. They keep me employed here. Really appreciate that. I can't thank y'all enough for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets. My man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have you covered there. Your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs, expert analysis, game picks, the lock of the day. It's all there in one spot. You can find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Plenty more Texas-Georgia conversation, including some sound from Steve Sarkisian, some injury updates for some very key Longhorns, and we'll continue the countdown to, again, the biggest game of 2025 for your Texas Longhorns. But that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.